What's up, bitches? Sup, bitches? It's Ugly Man here. Talking that PS triple. That PS triple. I ain't talking about that weed. That weed? Shit. People talking about how it's all new and shit. Ain't nobody got time for that. Alright. We are back with Paul B. He's being sabotaged and exterminated and tortured. Alright, Paul, what is the conspiracy? What is going on today?
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary.
In my last entry to you,
Dear
I
Diary.
began by pointing out that YouTube had identified the perpetrator, who it was, who barely, not even a week and a half, I think a week and 3 days into the very existence of this diary and this YouTube channel, which had not been distributed out at all, so really it was only seen by people who were close to the story to begin with. Somebody in there felt the need to go through and put thumbs down on all my videos without watching the videos. And they did so exactly 1/2 hour after the department that this backstabber worked in closed, which is pretty much about the time it would take to leave work, drive home, fire up your computer, and start putting thumbs downs on videos.
Or another member of the backstabbers clique if they were scheduled to work on that day. I'm starting to think like this backstabber clique, every time he mentions them, they're like, all right, you've got the call center, and you've got the nice regular employees, which include Paul. So they're the baby faces, they're the good guys. And then you've got this clique who are like the NWO of American musical supply.
It's the best thing going today.
They're the heels, and they just like run in and sabotage Paul, and like do him dirty and do all this like nefarious shit to him. Yeah, they're the wrestling heel stable of the call center.
Videos related to a video that I had posted half a day earlier. The number of coincidences there.
Brother.
The statistical analysis makes it very clear that the person responsible, from the beginning it was very clear, this was not a random hit. They even put a thumbs down on my tribute to a 14-year-old girl and her mother who were killed in the Holocaust.
That is like just beyond the pale. Like it's really disturbing, actually.
And again, you have to ask the question, what kind of a subhuman monster would do such a thing? As if that girl hadn't been through enough already 80 years ago. Someone has to dishonor her memory like that. And then the next day, all of those...
What if like their finger just slipped? Like they went to go put a like on it, but they accidentally put a dislike, and then they just like moved on. And like Paul has seen this as like an affront. It's an attack on this like young girl that was killed in the Holocaust 100 years ago.
All of those dislikes were suddenly gone. And like I said, I didn't know if it was YouTube that removed them because it was clear that that was malicious.
And now 1 week later, the thumbs down, including to my Cheswaza tribute, are back again. They were applied more slowly the second time round. Seems like something only a psychopath would do. So yeah, he's watching the thumbs up and down ratio like a hawk. Yeah, this is what Paul does with his time.
Behavior against the violating YouTube terms and conditions, or if the person figured out that we can track that, and to cover their ass, they went through and deleted all those thumbs downs, hoping that I hadn't seen it. But of course, I was sitting here watching it happening in real time and documenting it with OBS, so that didn't work for them.
Oh, he does use OBS. Cool.
So in my last video, I said I was going to tell you who YouTube identified as the perpetrator there. Before I do that, though, I have to acknowledge that the purpose of this diary is to leave it behind as evidence. I'm leaving it behind for a variety of reasons. For social scientists in the future, for people who deal with homelessness, but first and foremost, I'm leaving it.
Yeah, there is going to be analysis. Like posthumously, people will be looking at these videos with a fine-tooth comb and all the warning signs that were there.
Only law enforcement and the coroner, because the people responsible for my death need to be prosecuted. And toward that end, I want to ask anybody who watches these diary entries, specifically to the people who watched my previous diary entry, which talked about this and then went on and talked about psychopathy a little longer than I expected to, because there's so much there to talk about. I have a question for everyone who watched that video. At the beginning of the video...
All right, hit me. I'm ready.
When I mentioned that YouTube had identified the perpetrator, did you, personally, feel a jump in your heart, a jump of fear and trepidation in your heart that you had been caught?
He is such a moron. Yeah, I left that thumbs down, and you know, I opened that video up again, and when he called me out, yeah, I was in a state of shock. My body was just trembling, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. I've been like pacing back and forth all day and all night thinking about this, and I know I pulled the thumbs down. I've retracted the thumbs down, but still, it's eating away at me. Because I've been caught out. Paul caught me. You got your
Because if you are not the
eyes.
perpetrator and you are not the one who went through and tried to sabotage a channel that was only 1 week and 3 days old and only basically seen by people who were very close to the story in the first place.
I think like fucking you idiot. It's like half these thumbs down and shit. It's this like bots. This like weird script that probably runs through YouTube. It is like, all right, this script runs, like thumbs down, like, and you get some comments that it's like these aren't real people talking. Like it's just very wonderful, great post. Like it's not real, Paul. Like half that shit isn't generated by humans.
At that time, if you were not the one who did that, I would expect that it had no impact on you whatsoever because you're not the one
Yeah, imagine like he's raging out and he's making these videos over like some bot script running in the background and he's going crazy about it.
who did it. Why would that have an impact on you? It would pique your curiosity to know who did it, but you're not going to have your heart jump and you're not going to, smoke some weed to calm down and you're not going to go, oh my gosh, they're on me, second degree murder, you're not going to feel that way because you're not the one who did it. But if you are the one who did it, when I said that and mentioned that YouTube had identified the person, their hair probably stood on end, their heart started beating so fast, they probably had to go do a little something.
Yeah, he is so into this, like he is so into this story and this fantasy that when he talks about it, it's what he's feeling, it's what he's going through when he sees this sort of shit. He gets his heart racing, his hair does stand on end because it's a thrill. It's like a complete thrill in this fantasy that he is his life because there's nothing else going on. It's car parks, it's like looking and staring off, playing little toy pianos. Like there is nothing going on. So essentially, he's become stir crazy in this car, and a way to deal with that is like make these fantasy where it's like high intrigue with people leaving thumbs down on your videos, but like in reality, it's like some bot.
To calm down, didn't they? So before I tell you who it is, I want to make one other point. I had mentioned earlier that using the scientific method, I had done 2 experiments because you have
Yeah, he's a scientist, man. He's Albert Einstein.
to repeat them to get a valid result, and then I went and got peer review on these. These were experiments. Since I worked for an online store that deals with music, and I'd been there for 8 years, in all that time, everyone else had posted their music to our internal chat, and it would have links to external websites that have their music. And I got to enjoy seeing how much talent my coworkers had and what they were doing with their bands. And they would tell us when they're going to play live and things like that so we could go see them. There was a very nice feature of our internal chat where we could tell each other these things. In those 8 years, though, I never found a way to present the music that I had made with my bands to my coworkers.
Yeah, because you had it all on that stupid WordPress site with all your creepy like 3D renders and like random questionable shit that if you posted it, if someone saw that, they'd be like, "Hey, Paul, that's kind of sussy."
That changed.
Sussy.
That changed at the beginning of February of this year. I found a way. I found a site and I paid for it and I got it set up.
Stalker, black car stalker. Remember, he's noticed that there's a lot of like black cars in Minnesota, and he's thinking they're like MIB.
With the music from some of the music that I've done in the past with my bands. One of those bands was a band that didn't last long. They created very good music, but in the description, if I can find my glasses.
Oh, what? That car is backing up. What is going on there? Are you watching this, Paul? I'm watching your stalkers for you now.
In the description for the music for that band, I said, quote, "These guys wrote great bar songs, but they turned
What is going on there? He's come forward, he's backed up, and he's come forward again. All right.
out to be cocaine and meth addicts. So they were totally unreliable as friends and bandmates, and as paranoid as the Manson family. I hope they got off the drugs and are still alive and are not in prison and haven't killed any innocent people in a car wreck and haven't abused their children." And I went on this long litany of what the problems with drug abuse are.
No, yeah.
The experiment that I did was one sentence that I threw in the middle of this. So you have all this music, all these different songs. You have this big long text that's talking about this band specifically, and they were in fact cocaine and meth addicts. And it did
Yeah, this is the test. This is the, what did he call it? The wake-up call.
break the band up. In the midst of all that discussion, perfectly valid, exactly the kind of thing that my coworkers share with each other on a regular basis, and I finally was so blessed to be able to share the music I had made with my coworkers, and they liked it. They liked it a lot, and I'm very glad, very grateful. I put in this one I'm sorry. Okay, it's actually 4 sentences. It's 1 paragraph. I threw this in there, and I quote, once again, other people's drug problems cost me valued friendships, productive collaborations, and turned otherwise good people into heartless and soulless human zombies.
So yeah, the origin of that is so why he has such a disdain for drug use is basically I think a band member, a previous band he was in. I guess this guy went like Sid Barrett mode and like completely lost his mind, or um, his brain went to mush from whatever drugs he was doing, and it maybe killed a collaboration he was having in this band, and like it broke up like a burgeoning like Pink Floyd sort of situation where they could have gone far and they could have had a lot of success, but this guy had a meltdown. I don't know. I think he might have died, maybe an OD or something like that. But this is where I think Paul's ire for the drug culture comes from.
And that, of course, is in reference to the bandmates. Then I said, quote, I'm getting really sick of that happening to people I care about, as it happened yet again very recently.
And yeah, like he's seeing this young girl as someone that's he's close to, quote unquote, and he doesn't want to see her go down the same path as his bandmate.
Incredibly, they think we can't recognize the obvious. I wish people would just stick with Andy's mints. Unquote.
Gotta throw the Andy's mints in there.
I'm going to repeat that because I want to make it perfectly clear that the one and only thing I said out of this entire website that had 3 different bands' music in it, the one and only thing I said that was in any way directed at these people who I suspected of using drugs was this statement and nothing else whatsoever.
There is something like really wild. I'll splice it in here. It's at the very end of, like, it's a little it's a descriptor or something like that, and it's just a complete diatribe of like really weird shit about this backstabber that if she read this, she's definitely going to hate her. So I'll see if I can find it, splice it in, and maybe put a little bit more commentary on it. Yeah, all right. So yeah, this is his little web page, his little kind of WordPress-like site full of like some sussy shit. But yeah, this is one of the things he sent to her, and it would be right at the end of his his tenure at AMS in the call center. And it's just like a cornball 70s song, late 60s maybe. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. Like maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. It goes all the way, but he sent it through. There's like a whole script here. I might get into that. But at the end of this clip, of this song, there is this weird woman's voice, which is like some AI computer generated voice that is, I guess, meant to be her, and how he interprets her, the backstabber's feelings towards Paul when he's not around her. So we'll give it a quick listen.
Let him spend Christmas all alone thinking about the family he doesn't have, and maybe he'll finally just kill himself instead of burdening me with this inconvenience. I'm not gonna visit him at all over the holidays. I'm not gonna wish him a Merry Christmas. Hell, I'm not even going to talk to him at all. I'm just gonna smile at him to fuck with his head. Let him eat his heart out. I just want to hang out with my truly good friends, the ones who don't have a problem with me being a junkie, and who don't care whether I live or die, or spend my life in prison. I just want to get high being a junkie, and who don't care whether I live or
All right,
die,
so yeah, like,
or
so
spend my
if
life in
he's
prison.
sent
I
this
just
through,
wanna
and this
get
is
high,
right at
baby.
the end of everything, so I'm thinking, all right, so yeah, like, so if he's sent this through, and this is right at the end of everything, so I'm thinking this might be one of the clips she heard as the final, I've had enough, where she said, I've heard this is ridiculous, this is really like weirdly accusatory and not even passive aggressive, this is just aggressive. Um, and yeah, like if that is one portion of what he was like sending to her, there might be something else out there that maybe is lost to time. But yeah, if she's heard this and she's listened through all this to the end, and Paul's been really sneaky here because like maybe she gets to the end, towards the end of the song, and she's just clicked out of it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's a cool like retro song. I like it. But hasn't heard this part. He's basically like trauma dumping on her, where you know you don't want to like have a Christmas meal with me. You don't want to like sit down to a Christmas dinner with me. I've been alone for so long. I just want, you just want to go and get high and be a junkie, then spend time with a really good guy like me, Paul B. And, you know, it's a really wild thing. So I'm thinking this is one of the tests he's sent to her, and see what her reaction is. And of course, like, what is your reaction? Your general reaction to hearing that end part is, fuck this guy. This guy is like a real dirtbag piece of shit. And he sent this to me, like, and saying this is how I truly feel about him, which I don't know, may or may not be true. It doesn't matter. Like, unless you know for sure that this woman has said these things, like, you can't attribute that sort of malice to her, whereas she's saying, oh, he's a fat fuck and I wish he'd just go die. Um, so yeah, that's a really kind of wild thing that's in his little website. And there's a lot of other tracks. Whether or not there's any other hidden meaning in any of them, I don't know. But a work in progress, concept trailer for a short screenplay script. Why is, yeah, I think this is just his like biopic, basically. Gen Z woman, that's her. He wants to help her avoid destroying her life. So again, she's reading this going, oh my God. Since she is preoccupied only with herself and chilling with toxic friends who show her no regard for her well-being. He wants to help her find her true purpose for being alive. So that's the mentor muse like relationship he wanted. With a little on the side, I reckon. Initially she is receptive, but she had been devoured by the drug culture for many years, and with any cult mentality, she has been trained to fear and avoid outsiders. In a personal emergency, the man's time of greatest despair, he asks for the woman's solace, but she has become only an empty shell wearing a beautiful, though rapidly deteriorating face and body. That's, again, another shot across her. She's been stripped of her identity by the drug subculture, and the drugs hold her heart and soul hostage. Again, more like accusatory language here. Her only concerns now are getting high and avoiding anyone outside her circle, who in true cult fashion manipulate her into believing that only they care about her and can protect her, despite abundant and overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So she callously does nothing to help the man, and even regards the best friend she's ever been offered as an enemy. Okay, yeah. The man only barely survives the ordeal alone. So this is all like not even trying to hide it at this point. Like, this is Paul and this woman's relationship. A few years later, all right, so this is him now jumping forward in time to say, okay, what's going to happen to this woman now? A few years later, in her mid-20s, the woman becomes the next statistic. The only person who attends her funeral is the man. Her friends were paranoid about getting arrested for their role in her death, and they had already replaced her and largely forgotten about her anyway, with the help of drugs, the same way she had forgotten about the man a few years early. So Paul's like sitting at the grave, and he's got the lone flower, and he was, you know, I'm the only one who showed up for you. These people were just toxic, vile cult members who didn't really care about you and have just discarded you now. But the person you discarded initially, he's standing over your grave right now with tears in his eyes. Oh yeah, he stands at her grave in deep sorrow. What was All right, so there's going to be a photo here. And laments how things could have been so different. If the woman had only recognized who her true friends are, she rejected a sober friend who believed in her as a valuable and irreplaceable, as valuable and irreplaceable. She had chosen to go down the road from which there is no return. All right, yeah, that is definitely a test. That's the test. One of. Yeah. I don't know how you read through all this and then hear the end of that song and not completely want to punch this dude in the fucking head immediately. She probably showed a great amount of restraint. Yeah, this is all like slanderous and liable, but I think Paul is just dressing it up as, well, it's just a movie script. What are you going on about? I know it like parallels a lot of what's going on in our real lives, but it's just a movie, bro. Chill out.
Quote, I'm getting really sick of that happening to people I care about, as it happened yet again very recently. Incredibly, they think we can't recognize the obvious. I wish people would just stick with Andy's mints, unquote. Based on that, this clique of people, including the backstabber, and one person in my department who is in some way associated with them, I don't know to what extent, out of the entire office, every person in there either had no response, no change of behavior whatsoever, or they just heaped praise on us about how good our music was. But what I said there went in one ear and out the other, and I suspect that the reason for that is because they are not, in fact, hardcore drug addicts who are using cocaine and meth. Why would they think about it? Why would that sentence have any meaning to them at all if they're not?
Oh yeah, he hates school buses too. Oh, I always forget this. Like, there is a range of things that he dislikes, like cars and vehicles and stalkers in these things. But like, at one point, he got so frustrated with. I think, if I recall, it was like how they drive. These bus drivers.
Sorry about that. Damn guy drives like an animal.
That's all right.
And these yellow buses, the school buses. I think when they're empty and they're going to the school or they're going to the library or whatever, because he's parked outside the library right now, he got annoyed with the fact that they just like they throw it around like they're really reckless driving, like they have reckless driving. Because I think a lot of the bus drivers, and it's true for this country too, like a lot of it's volunteers, so like it's usually mums or dads who will volunteer and put their hand up and say, all right, I'm the bus driver for the next month or something like that. And anyway, yeah, he does not like the yellow buses.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh? Shit.
Using hard drugs. That sentence would only have an impact on somebody who is using hard drugs, wouldn't it? And lo and behold, the four people, and in particular the three I'm thinking of, and in particular from there, the one who ended up being the backstabber, 3 minutes after I posted this, 3 minutes, the behavior of that entire group shifted 180 degrees from the way that they have behaved consistently for as long as I've seen them work at the...
Yeah, so from what I understand, and I will splice this in, like the message they maybe saw is like very unhinged, and if it's the descriptor left under this one particular song that the clique saw, I would definitely be changing my tune about Paul immediately.
the company. It took 3 minutes for everything they do to completely, utterly change. And the people who sit right next to them in cubes were so oblivious, nobody pays attention to the world they live in, they didn't even notice. But I noticed and I documented it. And it's significant. The reason is because that statement I made here does not identify who I'm talking about. It does not identify whether they are male or female. It does not technically identify how many people I'm talking about. It does not identify their age. It does not identify their race.
So, yeah, this is an old video, so I don't know if he's in this habit of being gender neutral about the backstabber, because he went a long time where he didn't quite mention what if it was a he or a she. So it was like the ambiguity of it was there. Like it was just, who is this person? It's a mystery. I don't want to, because he's cagey. He's been like he just like he lets a little bit go, a little bit go, a little bit go in every video, and now he's up to the point where we know it's a she. We know the company's name. We know all these details that he was being cagey about. So yeah, he was a bit vague about the finer details for a long time, but yeah.
It does not identify their religion. It does not even identify whether they are in our workplace. It does not identify whether they are in the state of Minnesota. It does not identify whether they are in the United States of America. It does not identify anything whatsoever about the person I'm talking to. The only conceivable exception would be the part where I said, I wish people would just stick with Andy's mints, because Andy's mints are the candy that I would hand out to our, again, entire office, about 100 people. And I hand out Andy's mints to everybody. That's what I'm known for. All around the southern suburbs of Minneapolis, I hand out Andy's mints.
Oh my God. I didn't even realize it goes beyond the office. He was like a literal candy man. He would, I guess, stop and give people these dollar store mints that look horrible. And hopefully he wasn't stopping outside of like elementary schools.
To people, or at least I did, until these people ruined that and make me sick to my stomach to even think about Andy's mints anymore.
Yeah, it's weird because he was looking in the storage one day and he saw the Andy's mints and it wrecked him. It like completely threw him off what he was there to do. And he was like, "Oh, I don't ever want to see an Andy's mints again."
What I'm getting at is that shove my beautiful Charvel guitar up high, hoping it wouldn't fall down. Sitting right there was an unopened package of Andy's mints. I was known in the office as the guy who went around and handed out Andy's mints to everybody at random times, especially around the holidays. And I did that just to be nice and to build goodwill and to boost morale. And the main reason that that office needed its morale boosted is because of the horrific treatment they receive from the home office in New Jersey. What I'm getting at is that there is absolutely nothing in here that identified those people. There's nothing in here that identified anybody. In theory, if I had a way to get Andy's mints to a friend in Colombia or in Japan or up at the North Pole, I could be talking about them. And yet in this office, out of all the people who saw this and responded with positive feedback on the music, the only people who had any response, and the response was immediate, and it was a complete 180-degree shift in their behavior and their personalities, it was this clique, the very one that I was testing with this scientific method. And to me, that's a pretty good indicator that they read themselves in that statement. What was that statement again? I'm getting really sick of that happening to people I care about, as it happened yet again very recently. Incredibly, they think we can't recognize the obvious. I wish people would just stick with Andy's mints. Everything else I wrote in here was a description of the band I was in. It was those two guys in the band who were the cocaine and the meth addicts. Everything I wrote prior to that
all right, cocaine meth. All right.
was about them. And anyone with reading comprehension skills would know that. So why did this clique, including the backstabber, have such an incredible, far more than I ever expected them to have, response to a statement that's as benign as that doesn't identify anyone on the face of planet Earth, and yet they, and they alone, with nobody else, had such a reaction to that? I think the answer is obvious. And when you consider that I repeated that experiment a second time with another piece of music that I posted on there, and I got the exact same result, only that group had a response, and it was way out of proportion to, it makes no rational sense. Everyone else in the office, nothing. Just in one ear, out the other, as if I'd never written it, as if they were, here's a line, so they were totally unreliable as friends and bandmates. That's a line that I wrote about this band. Well, what about the people I work with who aren't my friends and they aren't my bandmates? Does that sentence have any meaning to them, personally? It has zero meaning to them. It goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, as it probably should. I'd be like, if someone sent that to me and I didn't have a critical eye for these sort of things, I wasn't like hyper aware of their like strangeness like Paul, I would probably like listen to the music and possibly read the little descriptor underneath. Yeah, it's very likely it would be, as Paul says, in one ear and out the other.
And this talk about drugs would go in anybody's ear and out the other if they're not involved in drugs. It's called the scientific method, and I did the right thing, because without identifying anybody, without going up to these people and accusing them, it was entirely their decision whether they wanted to look at my post that I posted publicly in the office. It was their decision if they wanted to follow the link to my music. It was their decision if they wanted to read the text on there, and from there, they get out of...
Yeah, I guess it's their decision, but like they didn't seek it out, honestly. You threw it up there, and I guess he makes it sound like they discovered it through their own little sleuthing. They discovered his website, and in his own mind, he wants to think that they were like engaged in like stalker activities. They deep dived, Google to search out, Paul's online presence and found this like obscure WordPress website and found his music, and then they started clowning on him through like their stalker methods. But no, like Paul offered this up, and they looked and they didn't like what they saw. So like this idea that like, oh, well, Paul, they didn't have to look at it. They were never asked to look at it. It was by their own free will. It's just kind of like how he wants to paint how things went down. But it was just like, no, you put the link in the chat that he's never shared anything like publicly with them. So of course they're like, all right, I want to see what this guy's doing on the side. And yeah, I'm going to click this link that he provided in this chat. And yeah.
What they get out of it. I did not give them to this personally and say, hey, I want you to check this out. I posted it to the entire office and did not single these people out. They went to it on their own, and they had that violent of a response to it. Ultimately, ending up getting me fired and destroying my entire life and probably killing me. Murder.
Murder.
It seems a little out of proportion, and it seems like quite a coincidence, doesn't it? So again, I asked the question of anybody who might be listening to these diary entries. When I told you that YouTube had identified the perpetrator of this malicious harassment against my YouTube channel, did you personally get scared when I said that? Or did you not get scared at all because you're not the one who did it? So you wouldn't get scared. It wouldn't bother you one bit, in one ear out the other, except for your curiosity as to who it is. My guess is that if you had nothing to do with it, it didn't scare you at all. Why would it?
That black car's still there. It's still there. What the fuck?
You didn't do anything. But the people who did it probably smoked a pack of cigarettes in 5 minutes with their nerves.
Yeah, they're like hair turned white. They're trembling all over, like just those cold, clammy, wet, like kind of like that wet feeling you get over your body as something like dreadful is going down. You're shaking. You're stammering. You know.
On edge. So who did do it? Folks, if you know anything about YouTube, you know it takes a whole lot longer than that for them to give us an answer. It's going to be a while before I get an answer on this. I just made that up to make this point.
Oh, you tricked me for you son of a gun.
Why, you no good double-crossing rats. Why?
Damn you. Your trickery.
They will give me an answer. I will get an answer. If I have to subpoena, I will get an answer. But I don't have the answer yet. But did I make my point?
Yeah, you're gonna subpoena YouTube, you fucking idiot.
Did you get scared when I said that we had an answer as to who this perpetrator was? Or precisely because you had nothing to do
Don't get scared now.
with it, did it not scare you? And if you did have something to do with it, did it scare you? It's because you're the perpetrator.
I got your ass. You did it, Paul. Boom! Laid the trap. The backstabber fell right for it. Hair turned grey. Had a heart attack on the spot. You win.
Your Honor, I rest my case. I put a detailed explanation of what I just told you in my response to Human Resources. They knew everything I just told you about the scientific method, about the purpose of these, about the way they did not personally identify the people, and about the way those people had this totally out of proportion violent reaction when no one else did anywhere on the face of planet.
What was the violent reaction? It always says violent. They had a reaction, maybe an adverse reaction, but like this violent? Were they punching walls? Were they kicking like desks over and you know, that sort of thing?
Earth, who I sent links to that. At this time, I've sent links to that all around the world to people I know. Nobody except that one click with the backstabber has had any kind of reaction to it.
The click featuring the backstab.
What is 2 plus 2?
You're gonna tell me, Paul? Can you help me with that one?
Yeah, Human Resources ignored everything I wrote in my response about that and fired me instead. And as far as I
You're fired.
know, those people are still at work earning money. And there's got to be a reckoning day for this.
The day of reckoning. What does that sound like? What did that ER kid say? Day of retribution. That was his line. So it's the sequel to the Day of Retribution. It's the Day of Reckoning. Yeah, I don't want to give much more thought to that one. All right, guys. Just another poor video. You know the deal. All right, guys. Stay safe. Don't be in Brownsville on the Day of Reckoning. See ya.